possibilities you see for creating, managing, and of course, delivering knowledge when both human and AI working together? How do you see this?
First thing I know that's very obvious right now is that you can produce anything at scale because of AI.
Now that we have AI, what are we now?
We're engineers rather than just writers. We're building systems, we are building structures that these tools can work on.
How are technical and knowledge professionals across Africa adopting and exploring AI?
Just last year, there was this notion that, nobody should use AI. If I smell AI isn't right now, it's something everybody has accepted. If you make yourself irreplaceable, you cannot be replaced by a machine. Look for the highest level of difficulty and ask yourself if you really want to grow or not.
Welcome to the Knowledgebase Ninjas podcast, where Gauri Ramkumar of Document 360 finds the best SaaS self-service knowledge bases in the world and then interviews their creators. Let's get started with today's episode.
Good day, everyone. Welcome to Knowledgebase Ninjas podcast. So with us today, we have Prince Eze Onyanuna. Hi, Prince. How are you doing today?
Hi. I'm good. I hope you're doing well too.
Fantastic. Yeah, thank you for taking your time and sharing your experience. It's very important, people like you coming from different background and different continent to share your experience. Before I ask any further, help me understand, how did you choose this as your career? Who motivated you? And most importantly, how is it going? Are you still enjoying it?
Okay, first things first, thank you so much for having me here. I would say I am more excited to be here than you actually imagine. Now, how did I get into technical writing and documentation? So my background is in DevOps. I started off as a DevOps engineer. And then if you're familiar with DevOps, what happens is when you have something you've documented, you want to show people, you want to show a recruiter, you want to show, okay, you're building in public, so you want to show people what you've done, make a post about it. Now, what happens is you're actually deploying stuff on paid instances and you get billed for whatever you keep running. So as much time you have something running on AWS or GCP, you get billed. And I didn't have a job at the time, so I had to rely on writing, which is what everybody does. You write about stuff. So you build, you quickly pull down what you built and write and document the process. So it goes to show that you actually know what you're doing. So I started off doing that, just writing blogs. And then because of writing blogs, I one day pushed out the blog to a public group and I said, can anybody help me just review this? And someone reached out to me, got on a call with me, and I didn't know who that person was, and he ended up being my mentor. Got to find out that technical writing is not something you pair up with a career, because when I started, you could find people that are like, I'm a front-end engineer and technical, I'm a DevOps engineer and technical writer. It was more like a side thing for most people. Mm-hmm. So from him, I got to find out like this is an actual career, and it doesn't just mean you're writing blog posts. I got to know you can actually build developer documentation, product documentation, API documentation, how-to guides, manuals, a whole lot of what I'm like, this is a whole lot of information. This is an entire ecosystem I did not know anything about. So I had my mentor, he pushed me through. I worked with him on several projects. And over the line, I dropped DevOps. Okay, now fun part is, because I started working with him, it was easier for me to get into the skills. So I struggled with DevOps because I was figuring out on my own. I took a diploma course, right? But after the course, I wanted to upskill, and it was quite difficult even to land a role. But with writing, it came to me naturally, and he'd say that, you actually know how to do this thing. You just have to get more better, learn structures and stuff. So it came to me naturally. So I dropped DevOps and okay, I'm going to focus and double down on this. And so that's what we did. I grew, learned from him, gotten so much experience. I've worked in the medical field for an open source company called OpenMRS. I worked with them twice, worked with them the first year, the next year they came back and they wanted me to work with them again. I worked with a Web3 company that's transitioned into a payments company, which is my previous company called Pi Squared. And before all of that, I've worked with several companies freelancing. We have Ambassador Labs, we have Semaphore, we have Medusa, so much. So I can say that I've come a long way and it's been very exciting. You asked me the last question, like, am I still excited? I am, because we're in a very promising time and it's very defining. Where we are right now is very defining. And I think from the rest of the responses we get here, I guess we'll get to the topic. I guess we'll get to the topic. But yeah, that's me.
Great. So that nicely puts me to the next question, which is new possibilities you see for creating, managing, and of course, delivering knowledge when both human and AI working together. How do you see this?
Good. I knew we were going to get there. So yeah, I was feeling when I got the question of do you see enjoy it? I know it was the AI thing. Okay. So the first thing I'll say I've noticed, or the first thing I know that's very obvious right now is that you can produce anything at scale. Because of AI, if you could do 2 blogs a month for a company, because of AI, first of all, speeds up the process of development. So if you were building a product, if it would take you 2 months to do something, to push out a feature, it has shortened that time. And because your docs is moving with the speed of your product, if you're putting out new features or new PRs for docs on a bi-weekly basis, it's now faster. So you can scale out production, right? Now, that's the first thing I'll say. So you mentioned 3 things. You said creating, managing, and delivering. So for creating information, for creating content with human and AI, personally believe that humans should no longer write first drafts, right? So the process of writing a blog, for instance, let's start with a blog post. The process of writing a blog starts with an idea, and then you have to go on to do research. If you have this locked down already with good enough context, an LLM can give you a good first draft. So far it has your voice, you've worked with it, you've trained it to give you something good. It has the context of your company and the context of what you're writing about. It can give you a very good first draft and that you can take on and refine. Now, this part here is where most people get it wrong when they say using AI. Some people skip this entire part, get the entire idea from AI, get the entire research from AI, do not check the research on where it's coming from, and they just do everything straight with AI, and they say, oh, we can now create content without humans, which is wrong. Because the idea has to come from something. Because right now, because AI can spit out millions of ideas, you can have a content calendar for every week from now to the end of this year. But are those information valid? Question. Are they good information that your audience will want to read? Tied to your product you're building? Question. And these are information that your tool can, your LLM can't answer for you. You have to answer it because you're building, you're human there. So if you can get a good idea, and if you can, using LLMs and using AI, of course, pull out good research, fact check the information that is given to you, have good enough body of work, AI can give you a good draft. So I don't think anybody should be creating first drafts. So when it comes to creating stuff, humans should not be doing that. Now, when it comes to managing content, managing knowledge, right? There's a gap in this stage I've seen, right? Now, before now, there was a mindset that when you're building documentation, you could get a writer and then you're building your product on the side and you see that, oh, I'm almost done with my product. So let me just get somebody to build these docs and they just do it. And you could now see that, oh, we have a docs up, it's there. And you could let that person go, right? And then you keep on pushing changes with your products. And what happens is your docs get unattended to. I've seen this time and time again. It happens in the freelance world. If you go to places where people hire freelance writers and stuff like that, what happens is they could get you because they've already built a product, get you, hire you, bring you on the team, and they say, create our documentation for us. You create the documentation, and what happens? They have you do what you have to do, and they cut short your contract. But yes, your process of development doesn't stop. They keep iterating, they keep making, but their docs get unattended to. Right? But now with AI, you can fix that gap. You can fix that gap in a way that you can get your documentation monitored. So monitored in the sense that you can watch for when there is a drift between your product and when there is a drift, you've made changes, and this by watching your repository, you've made changes with your product. You have to also update your documentation. This way, there is no difference between what your product is saying and what your docs is saying. Because people don't get that if a reader cannot trust your documentation. It goes to say the same thing for your product. I would say, all right, there's a very popular saying that the docs is the product, right? So it goes for trust. If I come to your documentation and I find that you have something on your product that says A, but your documentation is saying something that has been outdated, it's a trust issue, and people can't trust that anymore. Exactly. So when it comes to managing information now, we can have our documentation monitored. So nothing is breaking, nothing, we are all in sync. So I'm pushing out content, my documentation is getting updated at once. That way, everything is all together in sync and all, right?
True.
Now,
Yeah.
for distribution,
yeah.
For distribution, before now, we knew that only humans could read information, read content, right? But that's not the case anymore. Most times you go to, before now we go to Google, search up something and read the blog. Most people are not even going to Google anymore. That's why Google had to insert Gemini to its search engine. So when you search, it gives you a Gemini response first. Everybody is going to Claude, ChatGPT, just give me what I want.
Yeah.
Or just go do the research and do what I want you to do. So agents, LLMs are now a audience that people are now creating information for. And with that, there is a way and manner that information is now made for them, which is using things like AEO and GEO, right? Before now, you could have somebody spam a blog post with keywords. You can have 50 keywords for a particular search you're trying to make, and you spam it on a blog post. But right now, if you did that, your blog could actually be flagged for this. You could not be trusted, right? Because if you're spamming keywords, it's a lack of trust, actually, you know? So right now with AEO and GEO, which is, in my opinion, just SEO done really well, you structure your content in a way that is easy to break down. Because right now you're not giving a human that's reading line by line. You're giving an LLM or agent that's chunking your information. So it has to be properly ordered in a way that it's easily accessible for them as well, you know? So these are various places where I see that when creation and management, every single thing, we can actually infuse AI. So yeah.
Very, very well structured, and I really like the way you handled the three sections very seamlessly too. So another question that often comes to everybody's mind is, now that we have AI, what are we now? How do you answer this?
A very simple answer is that, okay, rather than saying builder, since this is a technical talk, we're engineers rather than just writers, right? And what are we engineering, or what are we building? We're building systems, we are building structures that these tools can work on. Now, let me explain. Before now, our work was mostly tied to writing the content, and we let the engineering team figure out the building. But right now, if you check the job roles that we have roles like content engineer, we have documentation engineer, we have information architect, we have AI content reviewer, we have context curator, and so on and so forth. So you keep hearing engineer coming up in these tools because the industry now requires you to build systems around what you've normally done manually. Now, and this is not very different from what we do before now, because if you are going to onboard somebody into your team, it requires that your team lead pass on the information to this person in a systemized way that they can pick up. But right now, you're systemizing your process in a way that you can give it to an AI agent or a tool to do for you. You know, and this was something that was left for top level people, the team lead and all. But what it calls for now is that every single person, if you're a technical writer, mid-level, advanced, you're thinking in systems. If you're writing a blog, what are the processes in creating a blog post? How can I systemize the process? How can I share the process in a 50-50 way, 60-40 way, in different partitions between an AI agent and myself? How can I shorten the time between when it takes me to create one blog post? That kind of, so these are a couple of questions. And in fact, I'm saying this from a practical scenario, because I was in an interview about a month ago for a content engineer, and then the interviewer went on to ask, you didn't ask any question about my writing. You asked a question about what are the tools you built around your writing, because this is what you're going to feed your LLM. So let's know, how fast can you create a long form content? Questions like this, because they want to see someone that thinks in systems and passes truthfully. You meet an engineer. This is me having engineering friends and talking about, you meet an engineer right now in any company. most times they'll tell you they're not writing code anymore. They are prompting and they are talking to Claude. They're trying to get things because they are all systemizing processes they've done for years manually and giving it to the agents to now do for them. And all they have to do is review. So we are all now managers who are managing these systems. So that's the question I'm going to say. We're just engineers, and what we're doing is we're building systems around all we've known before now. So that's what I think. That's what I think we are now. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Now, from the place where you're coming from, so in your experience, how are technical and knowledge professionals across Africa adopting and exploring AI? I think you're the best person to ask this question.
Okay. I would say same as anywhere in the world. Okay. When I first started using LLMs, I was like in 2023. Yes. Yes. It was just like any other person was using it, right? If you go to the average company here in Lagos, Nigeria, where I am, everybody's using AI. Everybody. And this is just outside of my technical IT field. Out of it, in every field, it has penetrated into, it's not something that's hidden anymore. Funny thing is, just last year, there was this notion that, oh, nobody should use AI. If I smell AI isn't right now, it's something everybody has accepted. We've all accepted it. We're all using AI now, right? Now, the question now is, how are we using it now?
Yeah.
We're doing the same as anybody in the world because we may not be at front cover news. We may not have a whole lot of headline activities that shines the light on us for now, right? For now, but we have pushed over years, even before AI came we've pushed global talents in different places. I've met writers here in Nigeria. I've met writers in Kenya. I've met so many amazing people who have done amazing things even before AI came into play, right? So the same way anybody's using AI now outside is the same way we're using it right here. And funny enough, we have a program called Oscar. Oscar is a gathering of open source enthusiasts, basically. And then in Oscar, you have a track. They usually give tracks for documentation, people that create documentation. You cannot imagine. Last year was my first time I attended it, but even before then, they always have tracks for documentation people and engineers, and you see the amazing things that people are building across Africa. And I'm looking forward to it this year. It's something really things. So there's so much creativity with how we're using it. You could find tools, even this is outside of writing. The amount of tools that we've built around this thing is like, it's amazing. It's really amazing. So yeah, I would just say same as anybody else, right? And in a couple of months, in a couple of years, that headline that we've not been able to achieve, we'll be able to achieve. We'll get very close to that. And you will hear so much more things that we'll be able to build and systems that come out to serve the rest of the world, So yeah.
So congratulations for already adopting AI in, as you said, in almost all job roles. And yeah, we are looking forward for much more from you as well. So anything else you would like to add in terms of skills, perspectives, or opportunities that you believe a technical writer should have?
Okay. I think I might mention this one while I was talking, but let me emphasize on it. Systems thinking, right? Now, a couple of books that you can read, but the practical way to learn this is whenever you take a task now, break it down. It's very simple. It's simple computer science we learned back in school, or simple way of programming. When you have a problem, break it down. So if you're asked to write a blog, break it down. If you're about to create documentation, break it down. Break each process down. For instance, I have a system for writing a blog. Say you have ideation, you have research, you have the first draft, you have review before you have publishing. Now, when you have these 5 processes, you figure out in each of these processes. Now, this is something you can take it up, put it on Claude. Look at these processes. How can we collaborate with this? Tell it to put it on a calendar. It could tell you, give me your idea, or I could refine it. Let me look at it. Let me see if it's viable. You could test proof your idea. Cool. If you didn't have an idea, you could ask it for an idea and you could test that. The worst thing you want to do is let it think for you, right? So I'm giving you an example now, a typical example of if you wanted to do a blog. So first things first, you'll figure out the idea. If you want to do it with an LLM, if you're sure the idea is viable, no need to check that part. So I've given you the idea. Now research. Do you already have body of knowledge around the information? Do you need more knowledge? Okay, give me information around this topic. It could give you that. If you had that, you could give it to him. It could compress the information. You could tell it, tell me what you understand about this information. That is for it to give you a fresh draft. Because after you have the idea, after you've done the research, the next idea is to, okay, you could go into outlining. What do I want to cover in this blog? So it's not book, right? Because most people give these information out to LLMs like it's supposed to figure out what you're supposed to think about, which is wrong. Because if you're going to think in the system and pass this information to, always think of these tools as junior colleagues. They just came into your company. They really don't understand anything. So you don't expect them write this blog post. Oh, how did you write blog posts before? What is the structure of your blog posts before? How long are your blog posts? What am I supposed to cover? What am I not supposed to cover? Are they certain things I'm supposed to feature? So am I supposed to add images? How do I reference images? That kind of thing. So you're supposed to give is context and have them all in systems that you can pass on to this tool. So once you figure out the first draft, now, then it goes to review. You must review. That is on you. If AI is giving you a first draft, you must review. Always be the last reviewer for everything. Even if you gave the first draft and AI reviewed, review what it reviewed. Make sure it didn't take out important context of what you wanted to add. Make sure it didn't twist things, because it can do that. It still can do that. These are powerful. Nobody lets lion walk around because it's just a very cool pet. It's dangerous. These tools can do a whole lot of things. So make sure you're checking. Make sure there are a lot of guardrails so you don't push out something that's not supposed to be out there for your product or for your team. Now, so that's system thinking. That's the first important thing I think you should do. Else you'll be replaceable. You'll be replaced easily. One. Two, don't lose taste. And so I define taste as your ability to judge the output you're getting from anything. For instance, I was having a conversation the other day, and I think I started to sound like AI. So when you interact with these tools a lot, when it gives you content a lot, and you're reading them, how we learn how to talk and how we get our everyday vocabulary is based on all the things we've read. So if you're reading this content a lot, you're reading those things a lot, it gets into you. You really like it or not. And before you know, you start sounding like these things. So do not lose taste, whether you like it or not. So when it comes to writing, make sure your voice is what it's giving you. So when you're reviewing, make sure, I don't want to sound like this. Don't give me this. This is AI generated. So that is what the review part of a blog post or any content that's giving is, any content that needs to go out should be for. Because, and this is the problem I have with some people that judge these things, because most times they don't care about these things. They just want it done. They want results. Results are very important, right? Because this is what's going to give us money for the company. However, I believe that there are certain things that should be put into consideration. We don't want to have our blog spammed with AI content. How is our audience going to still trust us, right? So if you're having somebody on the job, they should already have a voice of how they communicate. It's very important to keep your voice, to keep good judgment. What should go on our blog? What should not go on our blog? It should not all be left to an AI to figure out. This is why we still have humans in the loop. And as far as we are still creating content that a few humans still read, it's still important until we get to the point and we've decided that, okay, no human is reading anything again, then we could just let LLMs decide what they do and we could go back to farms and all of that. But until we get to that point, it's very important that you do not lose taste. There is a practical way to ensure that this is done, and it's by reading non-AI generated stuff. And you can find that in fiction, books, other things that keep your mind and keep you talking like a human, So that's that. So there are two things I'll tell you that you can do right now. Right.
Nice.
So, yeah.
I think human in the loop is the most important element here, isn't it? Absolutely wonderful, Prince. I'm just going to move on to the rapid fire round, cautious of everybody's time. Any resources that you can help us today with? It could be blogs, it could be another podcast that you might be listening very often that inspires you.
Okay. There's a book. There's a book I think anybody should read when it comes to product documentation. It's called The Product is the Docs by the Splunk team. That was the book that helped me change the way I see documentation. Right. And I think I referenced it earlier when I was talking about, I think one of the questions earlier. So I think The Product is the Docs, a very amazing book. It was written by the Splunk team. You should get that. And you should also you should read the Ataxis framework. It's a very amazing framework for how you structure documentation. So if you were going to train an LLM to help you with this thing, it's something, these are a couple of information you could get, ingest for yourself and feed it to these tools, And then the guy that started all of this for me when I started writing was the Google Developer Documentation Guide. I think that guide is a very amazing guide because I've once worked with someone who decided what the style guide was going to be, right? I feel like every team, every company should have a style guide that they follow, right? You do not make decisions of what you want, but what is the standard for what we're trying to create. So it's very good. You should get these three. So the last one is a style guide, but the first two, okay, the last one is a style guide. The Product is a Doc is a book. The Product is the Doc is a book. The Ataxis framework is just on the webpage, the Ataxis. And then the last one is on the webpage, the Google Developers Documentation Guide, so it's on the webpage as well. Yeah.
Okay. Do you know the name of the last one?
The Google Developers Documentation Guide.
Yeah.
That's what it is. So just search that up.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes, that's
okay.
Yeah.
All right. So one word that comes to your mind when you hear documentation.
Pages. I just love pages. Yeah.
Okay. My last question. A piece of advice you would give to your 20-year-old self.
Okay. Read more fiction. Get into open source early, as soon as possible, and have more fun. I don't think I have so much fun in my life. We'll have much fun. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. I mean, Prince, it's been an absolute pleasure hearing to your experience and what really makes me, I wouldn't say surprised, very happy is the way you presented very complex topics, but very nicely put down, and that shows how clear you are in your thought process. Yeah, I mean, amazing. I wish you all the very best in your upcoming projects, and I'm sure you will do many, many wonders in your new role or any role you take. So, anything else you missed to add?
I would say, personally, via my career, I've come quite a distance. And I'm saying this because just today I made a post on LinkedIn that was very, very personal, coming from somebody who met me when I started my career. And he just sent me a message a few days ago, reminding me of how far I've come. And I just want to say that regardless of how things are with AI now, if you make yourself irreplaceable, you cannot be replaced by a machine. It will take you to settle down, look at the highest level of difficulty, and place yourself there. Because the easiest things are being cut off. If you choose to do the easy thing now, it will be cut off as soon as possible. So look for the highest level of difficulty and ask yourself if you really want to grow or not. If you make a decision to grow and you decide that you're going to grow, dive into the deep end and it will be rewarding. It might not be as soon as you want it, but when you look back, you will not be the same. I think that's something I want to share with anybody that watches this.
Fantastic. Wow. I didn't want to finish the podcast, but I have to. Hopefully, we'll do a part 2 sometime.
I really hope so. I told you I was very excited to be here, so I really hope there's a part 2. I do.
Great. So, all the very best once again, and enjoy the rest of the day and the week. Thank you, Prince.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to today's episode of the Knowledgebase Ninjas podcast. Please head to iTunes, rate, and provide honest feedback on the podcast. See you next week.